Tamiya grill swap. So ran into a little problem. There's a gap. Alright, today starts probably my favorite part of building an RC4WD drive truck, and that is detailing it and making it look more scale and beater, just because I like making them look beater and like used farm trucks and whatever, just old trucks. Although this paint job is really nice, we're gonna ruin it. But yeah, we're gonna make it look a little different, make it look more better, more scale. And another thing we're gonna do is a Tamiya grill swap. So there's a couple of reasons why I'm doing the Tamiya grill. One, because I like the round headlights better. Another reason, the other reason that I originally was doing it was because the fender lines, which you could just cut into this grill here, or the front face. It's not really a grill, but yeah, so this is actually proper to a real Toyota pickup. The fender actually ends up here. So like if you're painting these and you do a replacement fender, this is technically part of the fender, and that would be your center garnish, and then that would be the other fender. So I have my other truck painted like this, and I can show you real quick. Okay, so I gotta use a flashlight because it's dark over here, but so as you can see, like right there, I did this a long time ago, but I cut that on both sides just to give it more of a definition, and like the fenders were getting beat up. But yeah, that's where the grill is actually supposed to, or the fender is actually supposed to end, and then it goes into the center garnish here. I put two little tiny screws to mimic the bolts that actually hold it on the real truck. But yeah, just stuff like that. And if you're wondering why I don't just do the RC4WD drive grill instead of the Tamiya one, is because to me the headlights are too big. I don't know. They look way too big compared to this. This looks proper scale wise. I don't know. Let me know what you think. That's the reason, really the main reason I'm doing it. So I have a RC4WD drive front face here just to show you the difference. But yeah, nothing too fancy, but I just like the round ones better. And originally, yeah, we were gonna use this for the fender line and stuff, but since we're going, or change the plan of this truck where I wanted to do the like wood truck, hunting truck style, where it's like a lifted truck and whatever, I think we're just going to cut this right off the bat. Because one of the annoying things, the only annoying thing you have to do is fill these holes when you use a Tamiya grill, but I think we're just going to go ahead and just cut this whole bottom face off and go from there, because I mean, I already planned on doing it down the line, just to make it, I have a picture here that I'm kind of mimicking as in the front end. And another thing, we're going to use the Tamiya bumper. This was chrome, I painted it black. This is actually, it's upside down, more proper to the Toyota pickup as well. They didn't, some of them did have these second cap bumpers, like this is actually supposed to be black on the end. But a lot of them were this more rounder style, and these cutouts are proper as well. So we're just doing a few little minor detail things that most people wouldn't notice, but I do. So I did a dull coat on this to make it flat black because it's still too cold out to do any spray paint, so that's why it kind of looks weird. And I sanded this because I was planning on cutting it and then, or I mean filling those holes and then painting it, but we're just going to go ahead and cut it. We're also going to detail the taillights, get the black trim around those because they're not painted from RC4WD drive. So we're going to take these off and do the outside and then paint the black here, which will be quick. I won't really film too much of that, but we'll film the grill swap. I'll be cutting stuff and ruining this body. I also just did a poll on Instagram, so if you don't follow me on Instagram, follow me on Instagram, poverty_society, to see what color we're doing the fenders, because while we have this part, I'm cutting the fenders. I want to get rid of this like casting line right there, and then it bugs me that that paint right there is way above the fender well, or the fender, it's not even a fender flare, that's actually how the fenders are from Toyota, but that bugs me. So while we're at it, we're going to paint the fenders. We're going to be painting all sorts of body panels and stuff on this thing anyways, so I figured while we're at it, we'll make it look more beater by replacing the fenders. And I did a poll on my Instagram if we're gonna just do 2 white fenders, so you know they're looks like they got replaced with white fenders, or if I should do 1 red fender and 1 white fender. So if you don't follow me on Instagram, follow me on Instagram so you can be a part of, you know, deciding factors like that when I post them. But we'll see. I gotta go check the poll numbers, and whatever gets the most one before I paint is gonna get, or before I get the paint out, is gonna get chosen. So this is the first video that we're actually working on the body. And just a quick foreshadow, I guess. Down the line, probably maybe in a week or so, who knows, but we're gonna separate the cab and bed, like my other truck, just to make it look more realistic and get that separation behind the cab. And we're gonna have to put the actual full cab back face on there and cut these tabs off and stuff, so be completely separated. And I'll have to paint the cab, and it's too cold to spray, otherwise I'd kind of just spray paint everything, but I'm just using model paint right now, try to make it look the best we can. But I'm not going to paint match blue, so I might redo the whole cab itself white or something to, I don't know, I'm going to play it by ear. But yeah, I might keep a door kind of in memory of the original paint scheme or something with this stripe to the truck, and then I'm thinking about just sanding, dull coating, weathering the bed, and keeping the whole bed blue. So still just playing it by ear. We're gonna do it as we go throughout the time of the life of this truck or whatever. Like this truck, the lift is kind of pushing up in the bed, so it's not sitting properly, but it just gives it more of a scale definition because you have the hole back there. And I have this one purposely kind of loose, so when I'm crawling, the bed shakes around a bit like a real truck. So just little details that I enjoy doing. I forgot to mention, the reason why the center part of this is cut out is because I didn't have the shackle reversal kit on it like years ago. I don't even think this existed. So when the shackle was up here, it was just always smacking the front of the body, so I couldn't get the full flex out of it. And then recently converted it to this finally once I overhauled the whole truck. So eventually I'll probably replace this or see if I can mold this old one to it. Or maybe since we're cutting the other one off, we'll just replace that one of these days. But I don't know, I want to make this just be a stock truck. So the Marlin never got the cab cut because I was running a heavy camper in it for a while, but might do that one down the line. I actually have a body up here that I did the cab cut, or bed cut, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, we'll start with the taillights, just doing that black trim around it because it's kind of boring, and that way it can dry while we're doing everything else. I'll take these out, tape them off, and paint them. I forgot to take the little protective coating thing or whatever off the vinyl. Or does this one not have it? I know the Toyota did, but I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just ruining the sticker. Alright, never mind. This is vinyl and these are stickers, so that's not a protective coating, it's just the border of the clear. Might end up just taking those stickers off. That looks too big to me anyways. And then most of the time that's all worn off anyway, so we'll keep the Toyota there for sure though. There's a tip on how to do this if you're not going to do it with a paint marker or whatever. Take a piece of tape, throw it over there, and then just go around the seam with like a toothpick or something. All the outlines. Then from there, take like an X-Acto knife if you got one, and then just follow it along and then peel the outside off, and that'll tape it off pretty good. And it'll end up looking like that, and then just trace around it to cut it out. And there you have it. Looks a little better when you have thinner tape than this, but that'll do. And then I like to just hit this edge with a quick swipe of a sandpaper, and it'll stick better. And that's supposed to be black as well on a real truck. So hit that with sandpaper, the edge, and then just hit it with a little bit of black. Sorry if this video kind of turns out choppy. I was trying to do stuff in between work and whatever, but anyways, did the black in the cracks just to give a little more depth perception, and then I also did the black here. That gives it more like depth perception as well, so it looks like it's separated, but we're going to be cutting that down the line anyways, like I mentioned before. And then I just did the little rubber stops black while I was at it because I had the black out. But now what we'll do is swap this face out. Well, I'll pull this one off and get out of the way, but I'm going to take the Tamiya one and I'm going to cut it right where the bottom of the bumper is, or probably just above where the very bottom of the bumper is, and we'll swap that on and then match the fenders to where it's cut here. Now we'll pull the old one off. It looks like we gotta pull the engine bay because there's 2 screws up top here. But at least this engine bay doesn't look like it's going to be as hard to pull as some of the other RC4WD drive rigs. Okay, yeah, that wasn't bad at all. Just these 3 screws hold the engine bay in, and these are the 2 screws up top you gotta take out. At least as far as I can tell. Oof. Oh, what the? These newer ones are in 2 pieces. Well, alright. And the more you learn. The old grills were all 1 piece, and then there's like a metal L bracket that went across here that bolted it to the rest of the body, but that's kind of neat. I don't know. Pretty cool too, because if you just wanted to do like a ARB bumper, you don't even have to cut. You just take the bottom piece of the bumper off and then cut the fender. I like the little radiator they got there. Take all these headlights out, and then now I gotta figure out if I can even mount the Tamiya grill normally. Let's see. Oh yeah, okay. So those bolt holes line up with the Tamiya ones correctly. So, sweet. So, ran into a little problem. I don't remember the old body being like this, but there's a gap. So what I think I'll just do is, again, turning into a bigger project than I wanted it to, but I'm going to cut the fender, cut the fender, and then I'll leave this straight part and move it down, and then like super glue it, or see if I can use some plastic JB weld, and that way I can have that lining up with that perfectly. But I don't remember the old one ever being like that. But again, my theory with the Marlin headlights being way too big. So, okay. I guess we're going to take another step here. Extra big step, unfortunately. But it's worth it to have the Tamiya grill. Everything else lines up, like the hood lines and stuff. So that's good at least, but yeah. It's kind of annoying. And another thing to notice is, look how much rounder this old face was. Like the sides of it. So they actually changed this body quite a bit with the newer style. I mean, given my other truck is very old, but yeah, weird. Just all the changes. Otherwise, I mean, if I was keeping the fenders and stuff, I could probably pull it now. If you pull it out, it would pull out around the headlight too, but I'd have to like shave this down and fit it, or just swap the grill itself. So, kind of weird. And the things you do to have round headlights and scale-sized headlights. And the bumper doesn't cover it because it's just below it. Otherwise, it would be fine, like hiding with the bumper. And while I'm sanding this, I'm trying to think of any other easier ways to do this. So maybe we'll change our mind after. But I could use styrene, but I don't have thick enough styrene. I have really thin stuff. So I don't know. Maybe I'll change my mind again. So another thought, maybe I'll sand the paint off this and do some recycle, reuse, and just take a chunk, put it in there, sand it down, glue it. I don't know. Maybe we'll do that. Seems like the easiest route, almost like it was meant to be. This part is actually like where the fender was on the other side, so I'm just flipping sides. We'll glue that whole thing in there and then cut it to the size we need for the grill. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to show you before I start gluing, because it's going to be really hard to show on camera. But I'm taking a little piece of styrene, the thin stuff. I'm going to put it on the back here for extra support, and then glue this piece in, kind of like what we were talking about before. It fits pretty good once I get it in there. It's hard to do with my fingers, but that'll go in there. And I'll put a little extra glue on top to fill in the crack, and then sand it down. That way, hopefully it's somewhat smooth when we're done. I'm trying to line it up with that front face right there, so I don't have to cut any of that. And there's kind of the other reason why I'm doing stuff the way I'm doing right now rather than other ways is because I failed to tell you guys that I'm trying to make it on a road trip here soon, and I want to bring this truck. So if I had more time, I'd be doing this probably a couple of other ways, or some of the other stuff that we've been doing to this truck, but I'm kind of on a time crunch between this truck and my Toyota 4Runner that I've been working on. So yeah, don't mind my figuring things out as we go, last minute rush kind of project we're doing. Now to start cutting and trimming. Alright, I got this fender sanded down pretty good last night. I went all the way down past the blue on this one because we're going to do this fender white and this fender like red. So you guys voted for it. Everyone actually voted for white and red instead of two white. So you guys have good taste like me. This blue, like all this paint is actually like super thick. So RC4WD Drive did like a really, really good paint job on this. And like if you're someone that doesn't like getting scratches on your rig, at least if you do get a scratch, you could probably buff it out when you're running it. But we like beaters out in this part of the world. So yeah, this fender, I'm not going to go so hard sanding it down. I'm also, like I said, on a time crunch, but at least the high contact areas, like the outside of the wheel well and stuff, I'm going to sand down all the way to the white or the base plastic so it doesn't scratch and show blue through it. Also, make sure you follow me on Instagram, poverty_society, because I have another poll going up to see if I should do a couple little dents on the truck before we put it back together, just to give it that more rugged beater look. So I usually, some stuff like this I'll do votes on, and it'll be your guys' choice, whoever wins the battle. Anyways, I'm going to try to sand this fender down real quick and then get to paint, because I really want to drive this thing out in the river before I take off on my road trip and get at least one good test run in. I mean, really what set us so far behind was this thing, because that was a whole project and a half. I was working on that between my 4Runner all day yesterday, and yeah, but otherwise this would have been done and we've been to the river today. Alright, both fenders are sanded all down. Got rid of like these annoying little casting seams. It's hard to tell on camera, but there's like just a line going across there and stuff. Sanded those down smooth, and we'll throw some paint on now. I'm going to start with the inside of the fenders, because that you can just paint up real quick, and then that way when you flip it over, you don't really have to worry about touching anything. It's easier that way. So surprisingly, the red isn't covering up as well as the white is, so that's different. But I'm just going to make it work. Hopefully enough coats will tame it down. Otherwise, I don't know, we'll figure something out, hopefully. But either that, or we're just going to run it for now, because we ain't got time to redo anything right now, but it's getting there. So I just now flipped it over to do the top side of everything. It's not looking too promising still. Maybe a little bit down here. I didn't do too many coats here because I was doing it from underneath, but what I might have to do is go over it with white and then the red. So I'll go back over it and then over it again. Maybe that'll make it even. So that's kind of frustrating, but I mean, the white is doing fine. So it's, I don't know, it's weird. And normally if I was rattle canning it, I would just do primer and then the color, obviously, but yeah, like I said, weather's not too good for that right now. Starting to fill in pretty good now after a bunch of coats. Just this little spot up here, you gotta do a few more coats on. And then afterwards, I like to sand it with like a really fine sandpaper to get all the brush stroke looking stuff out of it. I mean, more so like orange peel, but yeah, and then it'll be a little smoother, and maybe I'll throw some dull coat on it. I was kind of thinking about doing dull coat on the whole thing. We'll see. We'll see how much time we got. Sorry it's rushing this detail stuff, but the main course of this video was the Tamiya grill swap anyway, so I'm going to give this a little bit of sanding and then try to put it back together quick and maybe get a run in. Okay, so I got the fenders sanded down quite a bit, so they're a lot smoother. Not the greatest, but working with what we can with the weather and time crunch. But I'm going to do a little sun fade weathering to the box and maybe the cab a little bit. Just basically sanding through to the gray so it looks like it's on to the primer. And then I'll probably go over everything. We'll experiment with this top coat, dull coat, top coat. It's like a flat clear, so it's not so shiny. And then yeah, we'll go from there. And, oh yeah, and we're gonna do a couple little dents that you guys voted for on my Instagram. And down the line, depending on weather, obviously not before my trip, but like I said, we're gonna do that cab cut. And when we do that, we have to repaint the cab. So essentially, I'm gonna do the cab white, and it'll look like the truck was originally white, all to begin with. And then this is a replacement, like blue box. So that's kind of the look we're gonna be going for down the line. But yeah. Do this quick, and then hopefully slap the grill back together, slap it back together, throw it on the chassis, and go from there. Kind of rushing, but doing what we can. I just want it to look different than all the other trucks on the YouTube right now that are like this. So, and I like beaters, but yeah, we're doing what we can for now to make it look a little different. All right, I'm gonna try to show you as best as I can quickly how to do some decent dents. It's been a while since I've done it, so. Usually, like one of the biggest issues you see people do when they're trying to do scale dents or whatever is they just obliterate the plastic or the paint with the heat source, which you can use a lighter. Usually that's what I use, is lighter. It's easier to get direct, but they'll just hammer it down until it's soft and push it in. And you want to use something round to do the dents because metal usually dents in a round pattern. But what you really want to do is slowly warm the area. So it might take a minute. It's going to be difficult with this lighter. So it takes a few seconds, like, I don't know, quite a bit. You gotta just slowly heat that area. Then you don't get the paint cracking all over the place, and it looks much better. Yeah, let me grab another lighter. This one's kind of a pain. There we go. Get a little and that rocker. Well, I guess that's not the rocker, but part of the bed. Yeah, not too hard. And then that way you don't get all that cracking in the paint. You just get a nice dent, and then a lot of times I'll go around and sand the outside of the dent right there, and then add a little bit of rust, like the paint chipped away. But we're gonna do like weathering stuff, like the actual more detailed stuff in a different video. So I've learned, at least I think I've learned, the faster you work with this stuff, the smoother it comes out. And I'm also going to use a sponge brush. Maybe that'll make it smoother as well. I don't know. We're doing this by ear, even though we're using our hands. This stuff is very stinky, so I'll probably wear a mask or a ventilated area. Let's do a little test pass. Alright, so there it is, all back together. I just gotta throw the antenna back in, but not gonna have time today, but maybe in 2 days I'll make a quick trip to the creek after work. Alright, so this test drive was kind of a bust. As you can see, I swapped the wheels and tires just to change up the look of the overall truck. And when I got out there, it was just super cold, and due to the elevation on top of it, the molecule, like air molecules inside the tire, and even with the foams, it just shrunk the tires a crazy amount. So they're super flat, kept rolling over, and then on top of it, the front drive shaft was still popping out since I did the axle flip and lifted the truck. So it was just frustrating, but I wanted to put at least some of the footage in and give you something to watch. But I'll throw pictures at the end of the video as well. If you like the video, appreciate a like. Subscribe if you want to stay up to date with the builds and the projects, and follow my Instagram, poverty_society, if you want to see more on there. Thank you.